Hello bookworms! Today I'm going to be sharing my urban fantasy TBR with you. I've been thinking that I really want to listen to an urban fantasy series on audiobook. Earlier this year, I really got into audiobooks because I would listen to a lot of nonfiction. It was very easy for me to kind of fall into nonfiction audiobooks because it felt similar to a podcast as opposed to something with a narrative. I don't think that I could ever listen to high fantasy as an audiobook. That just seems like I would miss things and I would really need to slow down the speed. I typically listen at 1.5 speed, and it's funny because every time that I have my phone I will listen while I cook or while I clean or whatever. And when we were visiting my dad a couple of weeks ago, I was cooking and I was listening to Vampire Academy and he was like, "What is going on?" He's like, "Why are they talking blah, 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 blah." And I was like, I listened to it sped up. It sounds weird to me if I listen to it slower. But anyway, so like I said, I got really into nonfiction books, and then this past month, I literally listened to all 6 Vampire Academy books. I could not get enough. I was absolutely addicted to them, and I realized, and I also listened to the last 3 Beautiful Creatures books on audio, not last month, but over the past couple of months. Wow, time confusing. Really enjoyed those too. So I've been thinking that urban fantasy could also very much work for me on audio, and I want to give a couple of series a try. I have tried a couple of series in the past that I didn't really like. I really thought that the Fever series by Karen Marie Moning was going to be one of my favorites, and I read that book. I read the first book last year, and it was kind of ridiculous to me. I did like the lore. I thought the lore was interesting, so I'm considering giving the rest of the series a chance on audio. It's not my top priority. And then same thing goes for Black Dagger Brotherhood. I've heard that the first couple of books are ridiculous and then they get really good once you get past that. So I'm also considering continuing those on audio and seeing how I feel about them, because I did really want to love it. I really love vampires. I really enjoyed my Vampire Academy reread and then finish of the series. And now I just really want more vampires. So I have a couple of options for series that I want to start. I'm going to let you guys know what they are. Let me know which ones you think I have the most potential to enjoy, or specifically if you've listened to them on audio. I would love to know how that experience is, because that's probably the route that I'm going to go. All right, here we go. So first is the Guild Hunter series by Nalini Singh. This is probably number 1 on my TBR, the series that I am most excited to try to start. I think I'm going to start next. I currently have the first book on hold at my library on audio, and I'm really hoping that it'll come off hold very soon because I do really want to get going in the series. So this is the first book. It's called Angel's Blood, and this is the Guild Hunter series by Nalini Singh, which I already said, but just reiterating. This is currently an ongoing series, and the 14th book in the series actually comes out this October. So I have quite a few to catch up on if I do end up enjoying it, which I'm really hoping that I will. In this series, we are following Elena, who is our main character, and she is a vampire hunter. She's hired by Archangel Raphael to hunt down an archangel who has gone bad. And then there's a romance that forms between Elena and Raphael. And this series came very highly recommended to me from my 2 best friends, Alexa and Rachel, who recently read, I think, the entire series, and they really loved it. And they think that I'll like it, so I'm really excited to give this one a try. Next on my list is the Night Hunter series by Janine Frost. The first book in the series is Halfway to the Grave, and I believe this series is completed at 7 books. As you can see, I actually managed to pick up a copy of this one at a used bookstore for $1, so that was a pretty good deal if I do say so myself. This series follows a half vampire named Catherine Crawfield. She is going out and hunting vampires every night because she's searching for her dad. Her dad, I guess, kind of ruined her mom's life, and she wants to get vengeance on him. But she ends up getting captured by a character named Bones, who is a vampire bounty hunter. And she's forced into an unlikely partnership with him. And then in exchange for help with finding her dad, she agrees to train with Bones, and as she's getting stronger, the danger does not subside, and then there's a group of killers that starts hunting Bones and Kat, and it sounds like things are going to get intense. And actually Alexa and Rachel, I think, just finished this series too. They fly through urban fantasy, and they also said that I would probably like this one. So again, it's one that I'm looking forward to, and I'm also really excited that I got such an inexpensive copy. That was really fun. Next is the Alex Craft series by Kalena Price. The first book is Grave Witch, and this is another completed series at 7 books. This series follows Alex Craft, who's a private investigator, and she's able to communicate with the dead, and she's also a consultant for the police. So that alone actually kind of reminds me of Pushing Daisies. It has those kind of vibes, but I imagine that the synopsis is going to be where the similarities end with this one. So Alex actually knows Death himself. Apparently he looks very good in a pair of jeans. And one night Alex gets attacked while she's working a very high-profile murder case, and Death actually saves her life. And for this case, she is teamed up with Fallon, who I believe works on the police department, and he is pretty vocal about not liking her at all, but he really does need her help in order to solve this crime and find this murderer who is using magic. My friend Nikki highly recommended this book to me like years ago, and I never read it, and I came across it again while I was at that bookstore, and I was like, I remember Nikki telling me that I would like this. So again, $1, can't beat that buy. I'm very excited to give this one a go too. Next on my list is the Chicagoland Vampire series by Chloe Neal. The first book in the series is Some Girls Bite, and this is a completed series at 13 books. In this series, we're following a grad student named Merritt who gets attacked by a rogue vampire, and while she's getting attacked, another vampire comes and rescues her, and his idea of rescue is turning her into a vampire. So she ends up, I don't know if she drops out of college and she moves into Hyde Mansion, which is where everyone associated with him lives, and he expects gratitude for what he did for her and servitude, and she's not really into it. But Ethan Sullivan, who is the master of Cadogan House, is very charming and obviously has years of experience since he's a vampire, so I do believe that the two of them will probably end up in some kind of romantic relationship, though Merritt's problems do not end there. It sounds like even though she was saved by this vampire, there is still someone out there that is hunting her and trying to kill her. Next on my list is the Immortals After Dark series by Kresley Cole. This is another vampire-centric series, of course. The first book is called Hunger Like No Other, and this is an ongoing series that currently has 18 books out, and there is a 19th book planned, but I don't think that the release date was accurate. It said 2030 on Goodreads. So this series actually has a forbidden romance between a werewolf and a vampire, which is not something that I would typically go for. I personally don't really like werewolves. I've never read a series where I've really liked the werewolves. I always like the vampires. I'm always upset when werewolves come and interrupt my vampire stories. I feel like that started really early on in life with when I was reading the Sookie Stackhouse series, and then back when I did read Twilight, didn't like those werewolves either. I don't know, I just never like the werewolves. But nonetheless, I do want to give this a chance because it does sound pretty good. So we are following Lachlan, who is a werewolf, and he's basically been waiting for millennia to meet his mate. And then he's super angry when he finds out that she's actually part vampire, though she's also part Valkyrie, which is really cool. Her name is Emmeline. So Lachlan ends up claiming her as his mate, and he takes her back to his ancestral castle in Scotland. And the two end up starting to bond and form their romance, but then an ancient evil from her past resurfaces. So that sounds really awesome to me. And then lastly, as a bonus, I do want to continue reading the Hollow series by Kim Harrison. This is one where I read the first book and I did really enjoy it. The first book was Dead Witch Walking. I think that there are 13 books in this series and that it's completed, but she has written some books that take place after The Hollows ends. In the first book anyway, we were following a character named Rachel who quits her job. She has a really bad boss, and she meets this leprechaun, and she gets 3 wishes, and one of them is to leave her job, and she ends up her boss is so evil that once she leaves, he ends up putting a bounty on her, so then she's getting hunted by all of these crazy creatures in the new place where she's settling. And it made for a really entertaining story, and I really liked her roommate Ivy. Ivy is a vampire, and Rachel's blood affects Ivy in weird ways. It was interesting. I thought it was a really fun read, so I do want to continue the series too. Those are all of the series, the urban fantasy series, that I really want to give a shot. I'm really hoping that I'll find one that will just captivate me from the beginning, and I'll just listen the whole way through, and it'll entertain me while I'm cooking and cleaning, and on my commute. Let me know if you have any favorite urban fantasy series that you would recommend. And that's all that I have for this video, so I will see you guys soon in a new one. Bye!